Well, hello Sunday, August the 30th, almost through with August. Trust everybody's fine. Interesting weekend so far. I notice large demonstrations against the hypocrisy and the craziness of the reaction to this Wuhan waltz. There were big protests in Germany, in London, and in Ireland. In Ireland, the protest was really huge. Same with Germany. So it's interesting to see that people are sort of waking up to this sort of thing and seeing what's actually being foisted upon us. Mind you, we get back to Canada and our dumbasses are still protesting, are still pulling down statues. And I listened to a university professor just a few minutes ago. I think it was Melanie something, University of Toronto, explaining why it was justified, why there's some justification for pulling down a statue. And that is part of our problem. We have educators who have got their heads up their ass. You know, John A. Macdonald, like back in 1867, had his faults. It was a different world then, a whole different culture then. Everything was different. And, I mean, he did some great things and he did some idiotic things. Now, do we sort of flash ahead to 2020? Who has the right to be pulling down public monuments because of their twisted idea of history? Who has that right? Now, I see, it's about the time where I see some politicians, the Premier of Quebec, I see O'Toole, and a couple of others are saying, yes, we should restore this and put this back on. I see Kenny from Alberta has volunteered to take the statue and to place it there. See, we wouldn't have a country if it weren't for Macdonald and the group of people he debated and argued with who drove that railway through. History may be totally different today, the Canadian history. So these yahoos who think they are self-appointed can go and destroy that. I think they should be charged. Any university professor who condones that, I think kick her out of university or him out of university. They don't belong there. It's a stupid way of thinking. It's a stupid way of thinking. I mean, our past is our past. It's part of our history. And nobody has the authority to destroy and rewrite history. You can put addendums to it if you know that something that happened that wasn't recorded, because we all know history is written by the victors. But you don't have the right to totally destroy everything. What we do have is a responsibility to learn from our history and not repeat what we call the nastiness. Mind you, I guess at university they do not teach logic anymore. I think that's part of our problem. The last 3 generations have been schooled and not educated. They have been schooled and not educated. So I remember talking to Dr. Lewis. He shared part of his doctorate thesis with me. And it was about the lag time between Europe, the States, and Canada. And that was way back prior to internet and what have you. And his thesis was that what happens in Europe, maybe 10 years later happened in the States, and then 10 years later happened in Canada. And this is going way back. And today with instant communication, that's all sort of skewed. But I noticed, like I say, in Europe, there's protests against the hypocrisy of the reaction to the Wuhan waltz. And we're way behind here. We're still doing our dumb shit, pulling down statues. And I watched that in Montreal, a young lady saying we have to defund the police. And put that money, and some other young guy chipped in and put that money into social services and help with us with our problems. We're a dumb bunch. Then we flash forward ahead to They head to Portland. Another shooting. And after 90 plus days, do you not think that this is, if there was any leadership, any politician who was of service and of leadership, do you think this would still be carrying on? To pander to this kind of nonsense is crazy. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this particular shooting. It was sad enough to watch all of these Antifa, Black Lives Matter people cheering and shouting slogans and craziness and celebrating somebody's death. That was crazy. And it gives you an idea what type of people we're dealing with. So why pander to them? Unless you're involved with it, politicians. Why pander to this nonsense? But it's going to be interesting to see what they do. If they track down, if they spend energy to find out who did the killing. Because you notice in Wisconsin it was vice versa. They came out with an armload of charges against the shooter very, very quickly. It was across mass media very, very quickly. Let's see if they do the same with this and how the tide is reversed. I noticed in Wisconsin people who were running, calling for help wanting the police to come and help them. Sort of crazy. These are the same people who want to defund the police. We're in a sort of kaleidoscope of craziness, folks. The kooks are sort of running the show. And the demands are sort of stupid. We have to realize that we do still have a nasty part of society. They can march all day long and call about systemic racism and police forces and whatever. We want to send social workers out to where there's violence. Well, I mean, people, we have to give our heads a shake sometimes. If you do not have law and order, you have chaos. And so it's been a crazy week that way. You know, it's there's a law and a system of things throughout the universe. Although some people say we're moving towards from order to disorder. And that's a scientific theory that is debatable. And so you can question that and debate it and think. But as we look now, we still have order and system. If the universe decided to go totally out of disorder, we would not be here. If nature decided to goes out of disorder, everything goes wacko. And so maybe that is happening. I don't quite agree with that side, but it's worth debating and thinking about, putting some thought into it. But in the meantime, I think you have to have law and order in your communities, in your states, your provinces, in your country. It's interesting, our Prime Minister, who's quick to shout on everything, has not made a statement about McDonald yet. And everybody's sort of eagerly waiting, and it's got to the point where I don't eagerly wait for anything from this man. He's just not been impressive lately. But anyway, take care. Bye for now. We'll put some links in the description as well. And it's heartening as I close off here, heartening to see that in parts of the world people are waking up and saying, look, this stupidity is sort of not right. We are not going to be servants and slaves to corporate powers and in the elite. And I said, one of their speakers in London said, the people who want to control us can fit in a couple of rooms. It's not a problem for the rest of us to say, get our feelings out there and say, you cannot do that. Although I've watched Elon Musk's quantum thing he's working on, the brain implant, and that is has Dr. Frankenstein sort of ramifications as you look at this. You can see the people thinking beneficially about it. I'll put a link into that, just you probably have seen it, but in case you haven't. And I can imagine one of these little control freaks sitting with staff of pimply people in the back room. We all have implants and they're sort of directing what we're doing. You know, I can see the good side, the bad side. I'll let you watch it and see what you think. I remember the debate that Musk had with the founder of Alibaba, and he was saying he didn't like the art of AI. It was scary for him. He should deal more with people. And everybody thought he was an idiot for saying that, but it gets to be a point. Let's say you have Musk's brain implant and Gates's tracking and control and his tracking system in the vaccinations. You can just sort of visualize. You can visualize what some people will do. So it's worth a look. And again, that great debate has to carry on. Take care. Bye for now. See you tomorrow.